every word that you put down in this section, you need to put down after a lot of introspection. There is a saying that you must direct your interview. Now, how do you direct your interview? Otherwise, what happens? Like if you don't fill up your section 7, the only loser in this game is you.
This is where your interview lies heavily. So do not skip this area. Of course, consult before writing, consult your seniors, consult your mentors, consult your teachers, but do not write random things here because it might cost you your interview. Hi Sri, good to see you after a long time. As you know, hello. As you know that recently UPSC has made a lot of changes in its form.
Yes.
The things that were supposed to be known after the mains result, filling your services, filling your 7 ABCD, the famously called 7 ABCD, which has hobbies also. They now want the aspirants to fill in the beginning only, right? So of course, this has made and this has created a mixed feeling amongst the aspirants. Some of them are anxious, some of them are excited, some of them are nervous. So of course, we have been doing multiple sessions since 2 days, clarifying their doubts, but we also thought to get your perspective on this. So the DAF that you can see on the screen, aspirant 7 ABCD, this is Sreelakshmi's DAF, which she of course wrote, and on the basis of which of course her interview also happened. So the idea of this is to make your interview preparation also very solid right from the beginning. So when you fill these sections, you have to keep that also in mind. Also about the reform, Sreelakshmi, I think it's very positive. I mean,
yes, right. It's very positive, especially post the infamous incident of Pooja Khedkar, which had happened.
Correct. And that infamous incident happened. And of course, a constitutional body like UPSC, the credibility was being questioned.
Right.
So they bounced back pretty solid and they made a lot of changes with respect to enhancing their transparency.
Right.
So when you were filling this form, Shri, in your times, of course, how did you fill your hobby, 7D particularly? How did you really introspect on that?
All right. So, as you mentioned it earlier as well, that this is something which we generally bother post our main results, right? And people are really anxious as to what. And this section 7, I understand why they're anxious as well, because section 7 is the most important part of your DAV, and most of your questions will come from this, right? And every word that you put down in this section, you need to put down after a lot of introspection. You need to think a lot about it, because question can come from anywhere, right? Even a single word like you can see on the screen that I've put endosulfan tragedy in Kerala. Now they might be inquisitive about it. What is that? So a question can come on that, right? Apart from this, any other tragedy in India also I need to be aware about, right?
Correct.
Anything related to this. So
So
I was very
disaster
conscious.
management becomes a very important thing.
Right. It's a broad theme which I need to prepare on. So there is a saying that you must direct your interview. Now, how do you direct your interview? By putting up themes that you are most comfortable in, right? Otherwise, what happens? Like if you don't fill up your section 7, the only loser in this game is you, because interview can go anywhere. The kind of questions that could come is it's endless number of topics. So the interviewer can ask you anything in the world, right? In order to avoid that and to make your interview in your own favor, you must fill section 7 with a lot of, by taking a lot of time and things which you are most comfortable in, right? For example, your section 7A, prizes, medals, and scholarships. Now, I was a decent enough student in my school days, and even though I didn't have a lot of achievements, I had I was the first runner up at an essay competition. Now, I exactly did not know the topics. I had written on multiple topics, but I chose endosulfan tragedy in Kerala because I had also done a research during my college days on this particular topic. So I was more comfortable talking about this, right? The second point, you can see second runner up at the college level drawing competition. So generally what people does is they just write that they won a painting competition in school or inter-school level or college level. Now, what are they supposed to do with a painting competition? What kind of questions would come in it? So you need to actually put down the theme of that particular. If you put down a theme to that particular competition, then they could ask you on that theme. For example, here I have written drawing competition on say to no drugs. So it was like a drug awareness week or something, and then we had to draw something on those lines. So I made sure I put up this particular theme. Now the topic is drug abuse in India, right? So
Hmm.
drug abuse in India or across the world. And then what do I have to study in this? I have to study the status of drug abuse in India, which states are most affected in India, how does drug enter India, the golden triangle and the golden crescent,
Percent, yeah.
that thing, and then all the acts, what are the initiatives that is being taken by the government of India. So all these needs to be studied. Now I have a topic to study, I can study on this. Unlike if I don't write anything, I don't know what to study, right? Now, the third one, I received a proficiency award for the academic excellence. So it was like, I don't want to bombard my DAF with too many keywords. It should look a little balanced as well. So I just put in like a proficiency award, and no much questions would come from that. Even I know that, right? So in the first section, that is 7A, there are two major themes. That is, first is endosulfan tragedy in Kerala, and second is the drug abuse in India, right? So these are the two. Sports and NCC, I didn't have much, so I did not fill.
Hmm.
C, position of distinct leadership held in school and college. Again, here, people might be like, I have not held any leadership position or anything. You don't have to worry. See, even if everybody has done a project in their college, right? So one good thing about filling up is they'll not actually ask you for any certificates whether you've led the team or not, right? But if you have if you have had a project which you had done in your college, you can actually say you led the team. There is nothing wrong in it. And then you can put up a topic onto that, as in like my project in my fourth year was related to drainage cleaning system to address urban flooding. So urban flooding is a key, which we generally study in our GS as well, right? And I actually got questions from urban flooding. So there was an IPS ma'am who was sitting in the board, and she was very keen on to what was this project all about? Why didn't you take up this thing to BMC, and then you should have proposed it to them? Because Mumbai, I come from Mumbai, so Mumbai generally faces this issue of urban flooding, right? So we could talk a lot on that. So
Hmm.
that was exactly my aim by putting up the keyword urban flooding.
Idea is that only that when you fill 7 ABCD, you ensure that it is coming with respect to themes. And on the
Correct.
basis of that themes, also the static questions and probably the current affairs questions, you have to prepare for anything they might ask. And you must also have a vision as a bureaucrat because you
Right.
are expected to solve the problem also, right?
Right.
So your academic way forward that you have learned in mains, you have to put it in the opinion forms. That's of course a skill you learn when you do a lot of mocks and one-to-one sessions that eventually comes to you at the end stage. But the idea is that you should be prepared from right from the starting, that your interview will go on these lines. And that is why this section is extremely important. And Sri has emphasized that on that.
Right.
So, of
And then
course,
you
on
can
D,
see
let's give it D.
7C, you led a painting team for the college, Social Wing City, wall beautification program. So it was basically, we were like the art you see generally on walls today. So that was one of the projects of Social Wing of a college. So I had gone for like painting and stuff like that. So it was basically city wall beautification program. So anything related to that. So what can I think about Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, or something of those such kind of campaigns? I need to
Hmm.
study about that, right? So that was again a very conscious decision to put it. Second was led the creative team in crafting Mumbai local train. I meant Mumbai local train themed cultural fest. So it was like there was a cultural fest in our college, and the theme of it was Mumbai local train. So
Hmm.
anything that is related to issues regarding railways in
Yes.
general, Indian railways in general, or Mumbai local in specific, what are the good things that are being done, or what are the challenges that needs to be addressed? Such kind of questions I was expecting. And third, of course, the developing the automated drainage system to address the urban flooding. And urban flooding, I would say, like one of the member was just asking me about urban flooding, so that was something in my favor. Like I had like completely prepared about it, and any question she was asking, I was able to answer it, right?
Right.
So this and I just made sure that I have like 2 to 3 pointers for every section, not more than that. I don't want to bombard my DAF because I don't want to look like an overachiever. Maybe that could go not in my favor.
And also,
So
aspirants, you
yeah,
can see that her DAF and her wordings are very crisp and to the point.
right,
So it's not overfilled. So she has
right,
clearly mentioned that she wanted to solve a urban flooding problem probably, and she has mentioned that very crisply. Okay, beautification program, or as as you can also see with respect to local theme cultural fest. So she's very very particular about uh, ensuring that it is crisp and it's to the point. So that is also important. You don't have to overfill your DAFs through wordings. Okay, Sri, when you were thinking about hobbies, of course, this is one section that a lot of students have a lot of things to say, right? So, how did you come up with these three or two topics that you have written? And what was the plan ideally?
So again, hobbies is something it actually reflects your personality to an extent to the examiner as well. So you can't just leave it blank, right? You can't look like the most boring person in the world. You have to do something.
Mm,
So I had like hobbies in the sense I do read books. I do not a very vivid reader though, but I didn't want to mention that because as I just mentioned, I'm not a vivid reader. I just read sometimes. So maybe I was sure that if some questions come in that angle, I might not be able to answer. Or maybe I was short of time to prepare so much because I already had a lot of things to prepare for. So
mm,
one thing I was sure was I would put down my painting hobby because I was very strong in that. So landscape acrylic painting, I was very sure, and I had done quite a detailed study on that. Uh, the first one which I had written was Theyyam art forms. Now, I come from Kasaragod district of Kerala, which is the
yeah.
northernmost district, and there is this art form known as Theyyam there. So, there is this movie known as Kantara. I'm sure most of you might have watched it, right? So it's quite similar to that. And also because the movie had released, I thought that the examiners would be more interested in knowing that as well. And I have grown up watching this art form. So I was quite familiar with it. But even though I was quite familiar with it, I didn't had any, I had not read any book on it, or maybe I didn't go deep dive into it. But I still mentioned it because I was sure that I want to read more on it. And maybe I could build up a strong base around that. Another art form in Kerala is Kathakali, which is quite similar to this, right?
Mm,
And in my actual interview, they had asked about the comparison between Theyyam and Kathakali as well. And it was basically they actually combined both of my painting and this art forms. And they asked me that the face painting that they do for Kathakali, what does this signify? What does the color signify? So that was a very interesting question that came up, and I knew about it, so I could answer it. So these are the kind of things you can expect from, right? So yeah, these two were I thought like just two. I didn't want to put out like sometimes I sing, sometimes I dance, but I was not very I was not sure whether I could answer a lot of questions from that.
So we had many pointers above, so it worked for you putting two.
Right.
Had
Right.
the above sections been empty, then probably we could have added more.
Yeah.
Also, if you read 70, it's just not hobbies. People misread as it as hobbies. It's
Right.
extracurricular activities and interests such as hobbies
Hmm.
and to etc. So you have a lot
Hmm.
of things to write if you
Hmm.
really introspect your day-to-day life and probably the things you've been doing across the years. You will have things to write. So this section cannot really go blank and
Right.
does not look good if you keep it blank. Right. So, probably Shri, when you had so many things to, you must have been doing plenty of other things also in
Right.
seven. How did you restrict like that? These two are the only things I am keeping because of the themes, because of your confidence to speak on that, or were there any other factors you took
It's
into?
a combination of lot of things, right? Like I mentioned, I used to do multiple things, and I did make a list of all of that. And I was sure that I'll just pick up the top two or top three. That's it. So I was more, I knew that if I put up Theyyam art form, so it was something different. You will not find it in a lot of dabs in the
Hmm.
first place. And also, it was my strong point. I've grown up seeing all that stuff. And then now, how did I prepare? I used to, I did order two, three books on that. And then I started reading about it. And exactly the interest which you're talking about, I was too interested in it. I was fascinated by it. So I knew that when I can speak about it, I can speak with conviction,
Hmm.
right? It would be seen in my eyes. That's what was most important to me. So
Right.
yeah.
Great. So the crux being that 7 ABCD has to be crisp. It has to be theme oriented. You should have absolute conviction about speaking on those themes, the static and current both. And yeah, this is where your interview lies heavily. So do not skip this area. Of course, consult before writing, consult your seniors, consult your mentors, consult your teachers, but do not write random things here because it might cost you your interview. Okay, quickly coming to services also, because they have asked this holy preferences right in the beginning. I think Sri would agree to what I'll say mostly. But of course, you also have your own rationality, students, while picking up this. Have your own conviction because your aptitude on and your skill set also matters. Because one generalized list is always good to go, but your attitude and your heart and your aptitude towards a service is eventually what will matter because you will be serving your entire life there, right? So, of course, the big fours, AS, FS, PS, RS, this has to go in top five. You can, of course, prioritize the order depending on your skill set or your choice or your, passion. But do not disrespect by keeping this at 8 or 9 or 10, any of these services. You will eventually not get it at 4 or 5 if you don't want to become an IPS. If you
You
keep
will
it
have
at
to justify it as well. The question will definitely come as to why did you keep it at that. So
absolutely.
you will have to justify it.
Absolutely. If you keep IFS at 10, 12, you'll have to justify, and you cannot really say that, I didn't want to go abroad or, probably anything like that because it's very vague. And these services have, over a period of time, earned great respect. So you have to respect the legacy and do not keep it below 5. Of course you won't get it at 4 or 5 anyway, so
Right.
you're just put it there, right? Then probably audit and accounts, simply because you get an opportunity to work alongside CAG, and you do auditing, independent auditing of union and state government. So of course it's very, very powerful, and the position CAG can, like the privileges and power and responsibilities CAG have. So of course it's a great service. The work-life balance is good, and you are of course working right here in Delhi. Then probably railways, which Sri is also a part of now. So all these three services of railways, uh, accounts, personal, traffic. Again, your aptitude matters the most. Each services require different skill set, but I would say accounts, personal, and traffic, or accounts, traffic, or personal, depending on the skill set you have. Uh, you might really change the order, but railways have a significant uh, responsibility still in India, and the future of modernization, country's modernization also depends a lot on the railways, and railways will see a lot of changes in the near future. What is happening current affairs wise also, right? So it's a very important service. The work life balance is good. It's the infrastructure is great. You have everything across the country. I don't think there is any place where rail don't go. So it's very, very good service. After that you can really pick up, like, I would say that you don't disregard defense estate a lot, despite the rumors of the cans being shutting down and it losing its power. Anyway, I mean, you will have the army defense access, and these people are great to work alongside. They bring in a lot of discipline, they bring in a lot of ethics to your life, and the perks and privileges also on this day is very good. We don't know about the future. When will this reform happen? how will it be executed, what is the way forward, government really don't have a lot of clarity on this. So as of today, Indian Defense Estate Service is a really good service. You are really a kind of DM of cant areas, and cant areas are great, great to live in. Then probably you can go for account services, defense accounts, civil accounts, again, depending on your aptitude. For defense accounts, you will be majorly working with the defense ministry. In civil accounts, of course, you get an option to go with Ministry of Finance also, Jal Shakti also, different kind of ministries you will explore. So your passion, your heart, wherever that lies, you can put up account services accordingly. And then three choices I'll give it to you: trade service, corporate law, and information services. All these three services have their own importance. Do not disregard them and put any group B, considering that group B has more power, or I get to live in Delhi or Puducherry only. Nothing like that. Trade service gives you a great opportunity to practice track to diplomacy. You can take your delegation to WTO. You really are the brain behind the trade deals that happen in the bilateral visit. You do the paperwork. You get the option to visit abroad. People really don't know about it much. So they think that group B is better, any other services are better. Depends on your aptitude of learning trade and exploring diplomacy. It's a wonderful services. Information, as I've said, the future is very, very different. It's not 90s anymore. We are not living in Prasar Bharati Doordarshan era. It's social media coming up. You give license to the journalists. You are handling the PIB. You are handling the PR of ministries, and the influence Twitter, Instagram, YouTube has today. So I see a great future of information services, honestly, but depends on your aptitude where you want to put it. Similarly, for corporate law services, ensuring the compliances of various corporate companies, that they are complying with the government rules, CSR. And so you have a very elite circle of efficient lawyers. You are very close to them, you work hand in hand with them. Of course, it's a desk job, a lot of field options are not available, but if you're interested in law, if you have a law background, you get to have a very good network, and you are in good contacts with very good big companies. Then probably you can pick up IP TAFs, of course, because of the fiscal part it has, because of the telecommunication also it has. We have a huge network of BSNL, MTNL. We will be utilizing it somewhere down the line in the future. So you will be the officers who will be dealing with this. Then probably postal services, because a lot of it's very manual, it's a field job, and a lot of courier men and people who could not go to automation, you are handling them. Right now they're serving post passports and Gangajal, but probably their roles will be expanded in the future to fight with the e-commerce. If government decides to do that someday, then they will be using this man force. And then of course railway protection force, simply because it's unlike traffic personnel accounts, it does not enjoy the same respect in terms of work, because work is very limited to petty crimes across big stations, and you are not really handling the law and order also of the district. So it's not like an IPS. You are just an SP of a big railway station. So and of course, if you have a very, very passion, if you're passionate about uniform, then only you might pick it up. But I don't think crimes also don't happen that much today in railways, because of the technology, because of Twitter coming up. You can directly write tweet it to the railway minister or the prime minister also at times. So crimes also are not that much happening in railways. There are only few zones where such crimes happen. So workload is less. Only if you are uniform crazy person, then probably you might try. But I'll put it personally in the last of Group A. Then probably your Group B, of course, Danix, Danips, Pondix, Pondips, and your AFHQ. Simply because these are Group B services, it will never have the aura of Group A services. State PCS, many state PCS are better with respect to promotions if you compare this with them. So this is what probably my order would be. Sri, if you have any changes, you can of course bring in those
No,
changes.
again, it depends on person to person. So it all depends on their aptitude, what would they like. But more or less, this is the order that everyone must follow.
Yeah, great. So Sri, thank you so much for sharing your perspective, also especially with respect to 7 ABCD. It's very helpful, and students should be knowing how relevant this portion is, especially for the interview preparation. Thanks for giving them this clarity.
Thank you. Thank you for the
Okay, great.